This is the Right Guys Podcast, where we're so part of the right, we just walk in the circle. And now, your hosts, Max McGuire and Josh Hannon.
Marhaban bikum bil podcast. Ismi Max McGuire, ismuhu producer Josh. Yam Jihad. Josh, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here today.
Today is the day of Jihad, so we are wearing our Day of Rage camouflage so that we can slip through unnoticed. Josh, have you been out? You've been out and about today, right?
Yeah. Well, the only thing camouflaged on me right now is my double chin, so that's where I'm going to start.
Hey, listen,
I have. I've been out and about today.
You bet. You take the wins where we can get them.
Yeah.
Have you noticed more people carrying? I was in Costco earlier, and I'm always keeping an eye out for just what's going on around me. And I noticed everyone was carrying. Yeah. It seemed like everyone. I saw a lady with a gun in her purse, an old man with a gun. In Texas, we have now permitless carry. So the good thing about that is when you see something like this come up, where everyone's like, "Hey, keep your head on a swivel. If you can legally own a gun, you can legally conceal carry a gun." But you can notice if you look around and you see people printing, people not really concealing it well. Did you notice any of that today?
Just when I was getting gas and at the store and when I was getting coffee and when I got into the office today and when I was driving around. Yeah, it looked like there was a lot of people who decided that they were going to make sure they could protect themselves today. You know what I mean? And when you've got a global terrorist group saying that they're going to attack, well, I didn't say attack, but at least go out in the streets and march and do some crazy things, you know, that would make me want to make sure that I could protect myself too. And I mean, can you blame them? With all the stuff going on in our world today, when they tell you they want to do something, you said if they say it, what they are, then believe them, right?
Yeah. And
if they call for it, believe them. They're telling people to get out. And to do the show, oh man, this thing gets so hot. That's the other thing. These things get so warm.
We can wear it as just like a little scarf.
It is. It's actually pretty warm as a scarf. I like that. That doesn't look bad on me. I gotta admit.
I'm not unconvinced that you don't just have a really big napkin.
You know, do you think Amazon would lie?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
I kind of like the way it looks, but how is it in Texas? I mean, when you're out your way, usually everybody's got a healthy number of guns on them, probably. But today it was a little bit extra, right? I mean, is that what you were feeling?
Yeah. I noticed it. I noticed that people, I notice when people are. So if people don't know, it's usually called printing. When you have a concealed weapon under your clothes, but it's not really concealed well, and you can definitely see that there's a gun under your shirt or there's a gun in your waistband. I just noticed today a lot of people printing, and more than I've noticed before. And I only went to a couple stores, but Josh is abandoning.
Oh, it's hot, man. Good Lord, that thing is warm.
Listen, before anyone thinks this is a joke, this is appropriating someone's culture. I lived in the Middle East for 3 months, and I wore this same keffiyeh all over the Middle East as I'm traveling. There's me in Jordan.
Yeah, is that Petra?
Yeah, in Petra.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So there's me in Wadi Rum, which is a big desert in Jordan on the top of a big sand dune, and then me on a camel. So I feel like I earned a little bit of street cred to be aware. I don't wear this when I'm doing yard work or anything like that.
No. But, I wouldn't do that in Texas.
I have a brown one. I have a brown one that I'll wear because what I found is when I would wear that in the desert, I never got sunburn. Even my face didn't get sunburned because it was over a little bit. So sometimes when I'm wearing yard work, I'll just take it's more of like a special forces looking one, like the brown and army green. But I love it. And the red is traditionally. The one I'm wearing Josh is wearing a black
Amazon special.
ISIS, I guess. I don't know. Red is traditionally for the Gulf, like Qatar, Dubai, that kind of stuff. black and white is traditionally for the Palestinian movement. So I made sure not to buy that one.
Got it. So what's your command of the language like? I mean, can you go have a conversation there? Can you go order food?
I could.
Really?
Like when I lived there, I could. It's weird in Lebanon. In Lebanon was a French colony for the longest time. I lived in Beirut, so there's like a meld of the languages. So like if you were greeting someone, you'd actually use all three languages at once. Sometimes you'd be like, "Hello, kifak ça va?" So kifak is how are you, and como ça va is French, and hello is English. So you'd be like, "Hi, kifak ça va?" And it's like that's their slang. It's all three at once.
Wow.
So it was.
Interesting.
I don't speak any French, so I learned a little bit of French when I was over there.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll tell you, I've been watching Al Jazeera, and I've been trying to watch Al Jazeera Arabic, and it's amazing how fast your brain can pick it back up. Because I did 4 years of Arabic. Well, it was 3 years in college, and then study abroad was a whole year and 3 months. So we learned like the important words like terrorist attack and bombing. We didn't learn like the animals the way you would in like Spanish or like like different things like different articles of clothing and different parts of like furniture and things. No, we skipped right to like how to talk about and read the news. Like how do I get to the embassy? That kind of stuff. So it's amazing how watching it, I can just start. I'm not there. But I can hear it very well.
Sure.
And I opened in Arabic, which was cool. That's
why when I was like, wow, Max, I was going to bring it up, but you brought it up yourself, and I was like, yeah, you know the language you studied abroad, and that was cool. So
yeah, I mean, I all I said was my name is Max and your name is producer Josh.
I kind of got that a little bit. I mean,
which I told you at the start when I gave you that Arabic for your Chiron. I was trying to figure out which word to use. There's different words in Arabic for producers. I've settled on al-muntaj, because that is like the guy who produces things, but it's also a little bit of a compliment because it's like the procreator. So you're like procreator Josh.
I'm going to accept that
because you produce.
I do.
That's a lot more exciting than being like the producer for like a Broadway show.
Right.
You're the procreator.
Contextually, it just means I'm the procreator.
Yeah. I'm the procreator, damn it.
I like that. I'm the procreator. Like, I want to put that on a business card. Oh, yeah. I'm a procreator. Yeah.
Procreate. What do you do? I procreate.
Procreate. You make kit like...
Yeah. Well, we got to get into some serious stuff. But before we get off of kind of the little bit of the fun little bit, did you have a chance to see what happened to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
She was crying on the floor about...
She was
funding for Israel, $1 billion for something. So yeah, that I saw that.
She was like, she also did a video from I guess her office, and I had to double check to make sure this was real. She farted in the middle of it, and I was convinced. I was convinced it was fake. Like it sounds like someone dubbed it. Like,
is it?
It's not. I pulled this right from her official Twitter, not one of the parody ones. From her official Twitter. I'll play it and I'll fast forward a little bit.
Okay, this can't be real.
The United States has a responsibility to ensure accountability to human rights, to prevent the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and to ensure that horrors do not happen in the names of victims who do not want their tragedy used to justify further violence and injustice.
Right. Yeah. It almost sounds like it's a radio program laugh track kind of like soundboard.
You bet.
Like an E-Bombs World old school soundboard used for like crank calls. I'm really dating myself with that reference. But it reminded me of this unforgettable moment with the Fang Fang Bang himself. Remember he had his
Eric
mistress.
Swalwell.
Eric Swalwell.
Is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from
the way his lip curled up like that.
And this one is obvious because he actually like went with it. You can feel it. It's almost like it tried to lift him out of orbit. You can see he actually got a little bit of air.
so gross. I mean,
That's not reminding me.
I don't think I could go on TV again if I did that, Max. Like, you know what I mean? I would just be so embarrassed. I wouldn't even go back to a place. I don't know.
And then I got down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then who could forget when Jerry Nadler allegedly shit himself? Right.
Oh, if you've got it, play.
Here goes.
Waddle.
Got here. I love how they pan out so they can catch him waddling off stage. The unmistakable look of a man who's trying to stop something from going down his leg. Unmistakable. Listen, we can all be mature here.
Right. The only way I know what that looks like true is because I've done the walk.
Yeah, that's the clench, and hoping it doesn't come out.
Don't get worse. Don't get worse. Oh no, down the leg, right? Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, no. And that's the kind of thing we're like, oh, that's not what happened to him. Like, oh yeah, we know what happened to him. Come on.
He made every effort to make sure that his backside did not face the camera, and the look on his face when the eyebrows go up. We've all made it like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, and I love how the camera zooms out, like thinking it's something important.
Right,
like he's going to like change. He's going to change what's on the easel or something. But no, he's got to go.
Whoever that producer is, be like, man, zoom in.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that's the end of the funny stuff. We got to get that out of the way because, listen, laughter is the best medicine for a lot of this. And if I'm this way, my wife sometimes hates it. Where if I'm angry or I'm stressed or something, I just go to laughter, go to humor to try and mask that. You got to find a way to laugh because what's happening is so terrible. They're still finding more bodies in Israel.
Dear Lord.
They found this. They found this case. This was a story in CBS News. 10-month-old Israeli twins were found hidden and unharmed in a kibbutz, a little settlement town village, where Hamas massacred their parents and beheaded children. They were hidden away by their parents so that they could survive, and the Israelis found them, and obviously saved them. But it's just, you see these, and it just tears at you, because war is war, right? If you're a soldier and you're in war, you understand that there's a high likelihood you might not be coming home. But to just be at home with your family and to have terrorists running down the road in your village, massacring everyone, it's such an affront. And to see like Harvard, the students at Harvard endorsing it, saying that that resistance is resistance and it's justified given what has happened to the Palestinian people. It's so hard. It's so hard to stomach it and to accept it. And like you said, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Everyone who is coming down on the side of Palestine right now, or on the side of Hamas, because you can support the people of Palestine who have less to do with this than Hamas itself, but to come down on the side of Hamas and to do what Black Lives Matter Chicago did and post the picture of the Hamas terrorist and the paraglider, it's terrible. So when we see people like this, you have to believe them. When they're telling you who they really are, what's in their heart, you have to believe them. And I applaud all of the major corporations that have come out and now refuse to hire anyone who signed that Harvard list.
Yeah.
Make them unhireable.
Well, first off, what a miracle that those two survived. So thank God for that one. You know what I mean? Imagine having to stow your babies away because people are setting them on fire and chopping their heads off and killing you because you exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In those final moments, their thought was how to protect their babies. So,
and they did.
They did. So, you know, I salute them on that one. Like, they are that is what every parent would do. You know what I mean? Which is heart-wrenching. And think of the fear they were experiencing in those moments. So much fear that they had to hide their children. They had to get in the house. they probably did everything in their power to keep themselves away from the kids once they were hit. We don't know the details, but that's what people had to do. There were terrorists walking through the streets telling you they want to kill you, and then they do.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. This is a travesty that you just can't put words to. I mean, this is stuff that only happens once a generation.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there are tragic pictures coming out of Palestine of babies and kids who have been injured and killed in bombings, and that's heartbreaking as well. Right? Totally heartbreaking.
It is. Yeah.
What I have a problem with is when you see things like this, videos put out by Hamas showing that they are literally bringing kids into their HQs, babies in little bassinets right there. And they're literally using them as human shields. Don't believe it. These people are not babysitting these kids. They're not trying to take care of these kids. There's only one reason those kids were brought into that Hamas location, and that was to make sure that everyone knows, and they videotaped it to make sure everyone knows there's kids here. You bomb this location, you're going to kill kids. Right? It's the same reason that the headquarters of Hamas is located inside of the Al-Shifa hospital. Like, just think about this. How many times in the news are you hearing like the hospital is damaged in bombing, and those terrible Israelis, they've targeted the hospital because they want to kill the injured? No, Hamas has headquartered itself in the Al-Shifa hospital, and yes, they use part of the hospital for torture. So like, this isn't not making this up. This is a well-known fact, right? So heart goes out to everyone on any side who's innocent and is hurt in this, but there's only one party to this conflict that is deliberately keeping children and innocent people in the line of fire, and that's Hamas. I mean, Israel told everyone in northern Gaza to evacuate. We're coming in. And Hamas wouldn't let them. Said, no, you're staying here. Why would Hamas give up their human shields? I mean, that's their bread and butter. So you got to always dig a little deeper under the surface. Mm-hmm. I saw one video. I didn't pull it because I didn't want to accidentally show a dead child. But there's a video making the rounds that people are saying this is a doll, that Hamas is using dolls that they've smeared with blood as stand-ins for dead children. Now, it looked a lot like a doll, but on the off chance that I could be wrong, I don't want to put that on the screen.
Yeah.
But that's also what's happening here. This is absolutely a propaganda war. And the last episode I showed you how they had a rocket battery right next to a mosque and right next to a school. That's on purpose so that when the bombs drop, they damage the mosque, damage the school, and they can use that for their propaganda war.
Disgusting. I mean, that's just disgusting. I mean, hiding behind children?
The lowest of the low. Lowest of the low.
Yeah, and then just watching, some of those propaganda videos they put out looked highly produced. Where are they getting all this money to make these kind of super videos from to show what they do, man?
Yeah.
And the thing is there's no end to the people that will play them in places, right? I mean, they get them somewhere through the internet. So where do all people that watch those get them all from when it happens?
Yeah, well, they have a network of producers and video and video editors that produce this. Listen, some of the catchiest music, Arabic music I've ever heard was produced by ISIS. That had some of the catchiest beats because they had a whole network of people who would write songs, and the lyrics are terrible, right? But if you don't know Arabic and you hear it, you're like, oh man, that's catchy. You find yourself humming it. Yeah. Like I'm sure you know what song I'm talking about. It was like their anthem.
I remember hearing that. Yeah, it's escaping me at the moment. I can't help it. I'm not going to because I'm not going to
Yeah.
Not gonna
Well,
hum it. I'm not gonna
you brought up as we were getting ready to come on the Hamas water pipe video,
hum it. Yeah, that one
and just
especially.
why don't you set the stage? What happened? Everyone knows Hamas, Palestine doesn't have water. Israel cut
Yeah.
the water off to Palestine.
Mm.
Tell everyone why Palestine doesn't have its own water infrastructure.
Well, they use the metal pipes to create rockets that they can then shoot into Israel. So they take the essentially what is all the water from the people that would be there because if you don't have the pipes, you can't access the water, right? And Israel has been supplying them water for decades, as far as I know. But they take the pipes out, they make those rockets, and then we're always asked for a bunch of money as to why we need to fix their infrastructure. You know,
Yeah.
it's because the piping is always broken. But those pipes are gone because they're turning them into rockets.
Yeah.
So why keep giving them money to get water if it's just turning into rockets?
Yeah. EU came in with tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for
Yeah,
water
yeah.
infrastructure. They laid down all of these metal water pipes. And after all those workers left, Hamas went in, dug them up, and turned them into rockets. And we'll play this video showing that process. It's actually you kind of I don't want to make the Donald Trump mistake of letting people clip this up to say like I support Hamas. The ingenuity that it takes to do this. This isn't like fighters in a cave. They have worked this out. And there's part of this video, if this is the right video, shows divers going into the water and picking up warheads from rockets that might have fallen into the sea. Let's go ahead and play this. No, where did it go? Okay,
It just
here.
looks so well funded. It just looks so well produced. Yeah. It's scary. I mean, the value, the money in it. Yeah. It just kind of blows my mind. Like, where are they getting the support from to make these kind of things, Max? You know what I mean? All that aid they're getting.
They're literally digging up the water pipes. Digging up the water pipes. They're now cutting them, and they're filling them with gunpowder. Cutting them on a bandsaw that you kind of use for piping.
Yeah, loading it up. They're putting them into the launchers that they've just dug into the ground.
And they're pretty much underground. They have their own little drones.
Those are
diving into the ocean to recover what looks like warheads.
Yeah. And now they're showing their supplies, and
there they go.
This is going to be just one small operation, right?
Yeah.
Why are they putting identification marks? Like they're tracking the inventory?
Listen, so that's it.
Can that be?
Catchy music, good transitions, right? These are dumb rockets. These are designed to be dumb rockets because they literally don't care where it goes. They arm it into the center of a city, and they don't care what it hits because it's going to hit something. And so they're dumb rockets. They're not guided munitions in any way, shape, or form. And they have very small warheads. They don't do a ton of damage, but they do enough damage that you if they hit the right areas, they could kill people very easily. I don't know. I saw that earlier as you did, and it was it was surprising because we're always told they made such a big deal out of Israel shutting off the water. Now you know why they don't have water infrastructure themselves, because they're literally using them to fire rockets at Israel. And us idiots keep putting in new pipes. How stupid is that?
It doesn't make any. It's the most asinine thing one could imagine. I mean, it's just giving them the ability to wage. This is a war. This is terrorism, Max. This is just a fear weapon. That's what those rockets mostly are. It's fear. You know, they're dealing in that, and that's how they're fighting with the weapons they have, right? And it's been effective. I mean, it has when it wants to sow terror because people people change the way they do things on a day-to-day basis when that kind of stuff shows up, right? And then I think it was a post I saw from you. I think it was today. It was that you were just relating to people that if you let the terrorism work, it works, right?
Yeah.
You are being terrorized if you give into it, right?
Yeah. Terrorism is to terrorize you. And if you change your way of life significantly in response to this day of rage, then you have been terrorized.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Ultimately, it's to try and do that enough to have a political outcome. But a political outcome could be as simple as hurting the economy. Like, you've scared everyone from going out and going shopping. That has an economic impact, right? So you can't let them. It almost sounds cliche. Don't let the terrorists win, but you can't divert from your way of life too much, because then it works. And all it takes is a few people to do that, and it has an impact. Now, that isn't to say don't keep your head on a swivel. What I've been telling everyone, people are chirping at me like, oh, don't you know there's a real terror threat? That's fine. Carry a firearm like you should every day, right? Act every day like you live in a world of threats, because, surprise, you do. Felt like Joe Biden. Grows the economy.
He
Helps everyone. Nice. Hurts no one. Carry every day like your life depends on it, because your life does depend on it every day. You'll never know when it happens. So, yeah, this is a day of rage, and we're going to show some of the things that have been happening worldwide. Heartbreaking things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had someone text me today, do you know they caught 2 Lebanese men at the border? Yeah, they capture Middle Eastern men every day, almost.
For several years now, since the Biden administration has taken office.
Yeah. The Border Patrol calls them exotics. They used to call them other than Mexicans.
Yeah.
Which is a funny way. But then that also included like Central and South Americans. So now they call these Asian, African, Europeans that show up at the border exotics. They shouldn't be there. But they are, because they know that they can get in. And the question is, how many of these sleeper kind of people, whether they be sleeper cells in the official term, that they have their orders and they're waiting, or they're just radicalized to the point where something can make them snap and launch an attack. Sure. How many of these potential sleepers are in this country because of our porous border? And it's a terrifying thought.
Max, what's even more terrifying is once they got over the border, they usually lost most of these people.
Yeah.
So we don't know where they went. Do you realize the amount of catch up we would have to do if they all decided to activate?
Yeah.
Right? Now our boys and girls would be able to pull that off. I know they would, but it's going to come at a price. And that blood, if that happens, which I pray it does not, would be on the Biden administration's hands. It just would be. Right? They've let this happen without doing anything about it. Mayorkas, how many times did he say the border was secure?
Oh yeah, border is operationally secure.
What does that
Complete
even
lie.
freaking mean from him? That there's 8 million we don't knows out there. 8 million we don't knows.
Yeah.
And when people wanted to do something about it, they were deemed racist, bigoted, hateful, anti anything, right? We just didn't want the bad hombres coming in over the border, y'all.
I just wish that the FBI was as enthusiastic about dealing with that threat as they are at surveilling and arresting conservatives. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if we had an FBI that wasn't trying to invent this agave, right? The anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists. Imagine if they actually were looking at the real extremists.
Mm-hmm.
It's so frustrating. Before we get too far, yes, we have the potential for these people to be in the United States, whether they be bona fide sleepers or just radicals who could be spurred into taking action by these calls from clerics around the world calling for a day of jihad. The other side of that coin is that there's a lot of good old boys, veterans in this country, who would love, who, strange enough, would love for that to happen because then they could take care of business. Our old colleague, friend, John Tig Tigan, Benghazi hero, Colorado resident, he put out a video today. And I want to show that because he is basically expressing what I just said, that looking forward to the opportunity to take care of business if these attacks actually do materialize. Here's the video that Tig put out.
So I guess today's the whole jihad day. I look forward to it. You know, I won't be putting warheads on foreheads, but I'll be putting lead to the dead. But it's going to be fun. I wish you all the best. Because there's tens of hundreds of thousands of us that have been waiting for you to do this here in our lovely country. Yeah, and we just can't wait. We're stoked, man. We are stoked that you're finally gonna have the goat nads to finally do something. We look forward to it. See y'all soon.
All the catchphrases, the goat nads.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I know.
They like to have relations with goats.
Good
The warheads on foreheads, the lead and the dead. You could tell that this isn't just. He's been thinking about this. Yeah. He has the catchphrases already.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, right? Just because the war has ended doesn't mean that America has lost her defenders. They're here at home.
Yeah.
And which is exactly the opposite of what the Biden administration wants. The Biden administration does not want people like Tig armed in society, protect society. They would much rather us leave it to the official law enforcement who are too busy investigating us to actually do anything. But I saw it and I wanted to show it to you because obviously that's right in your neck of the woods.
I believe him. I believe him.
I believe him too.
Good guy. I believe him.
Yeah,
I believe him.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Well, thank God there's people like him and some of the other people out there that have done the work for us out here that are at home. We need you. We need you more than ever. We really, really do. So, you're free to organize any way you want to, guys out there. You know what I mean?
Well, they call him a militia organizer. That's what happens. He organizes. Yeah, he's call him a lot of things. Well, did you see what The View, the lovely ladies at The View, did you see what they said?
You can watch them today? No, let's go.
I didn't watch it, but the clip's out there. Yeah. They likened Hamas to the Proud Boys. And since we used to work with, I don't know if he was an official Proud Boy, but he was definitely in the mix. Jake.
Yeah.
He didn't strike me as a terrorist who would go beheading, burning alive children, shooting up entire families. Here's what The View said.
And say something?
No, I look at this from a legal perspective, and I think that we all know that Hamas has been designated a terror organization, just like many other terror organizations have had this designation, like the Proud Boys here in the United States.
Like the Proud Boys here in the United States. The history of the Proud Boys, it started as a drinking club, a men's social club, where men could get together and do manly things. Like drink, tell stories, talk about
cigars.
Sports. Yeah, smoke cigars, all that kind of stuff. And those people that were in that club ended up getting involved, fighting back against leftist organizations like Antifa. And all of a sudden, it kind of gets spun up by the media as in, oh, this is a terrorist organization, which is nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. To say that Gavin McInnes is akin to a Hamas terrorist is insanity.
It's not even close to being comparable, right? It's not even close. He doesn't. There's no beheadings of kids on his
No.
side. I mean, most of those guys love America deeply.
Yeah.
If you were to ask each one of them, do they love America deeply? I know Jake loves America deeply.
Oh, yeah. No, never had any doubt about that.
No,
and if you actually look what happens in these, for lack of a better word, scuffles between like the Proud Boys and leftist Antifa types, most of the time it's like mutual combat where they're both like showing up.
Right. Ready to go.
And ready to fight with each other.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a Gangs of New York kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where like they literally both show up because they know they're going to get in a fight.
Yeah.
Right? So that is nothing like Hamas terrorists paragliding into a dance festival in the desert and killing over 200 people. That's nothing. But you see how they're conditioning people to believe this. Mm-hmm. Like, they can't even admit that Hamas is a terrorist organization. They have to put it in terms of they're terrorists, but we have terrorists here too, like insert conservative group here, right? I mean, that's basically what they said. If you ask that woman, does she have a problem with the fact that the FBI seems more concerned with Americans than they do the threat posed by jihadists? She would say no, the Americans that they're looking at, the conservatives, are just as bad. Just as bad.
It's such a load of horseshit. I mean, like, why are they still pushing that crazy propaganda narrative? It's not comparable. They're not the same thing. So why would you say those things? What's the motivation to do such a thing? To keep demonizing your political enemies before an election?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the only thing that I would think that would be that would make the most sense.
Well, they do it because it works.
Yeah.
Right? They do it because it works. They know it's going to work. So that's why they do it. Let me see if I can pull it up. The what the DeSantis can't put out. I've had about enough of Ron DeSantis. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's secretly wearing high heels and doesn't want anyone to know about it.
Is he short?
He's below average.
Really?
And I'm sure someone told him that
you're
more electable if you're taller. Sure, they looked at some study that says most presidents have been tall. He's wearing heels. I'll pull that up, but you haven't seen it?
Let's keep going. I learned so much today.
Here is the video that they put out from the DeSantis war room. Let me roll it from the beginning of Trump.
Trump rally supporters in Florida. Where's that audio?
I won't play the whole thing, but this is what they put out. While Israel's in the middle of a war, Donald Trump has spent the last 24 hours slamming Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and Israeli leadership and calling Hezbollah terrorists very smart. They're trying to brand him as a Hezbollah supporter. Now, if you've ever... Donald Trump is many things.
Yeah.
And there's many things that you wish Donald Trump wasn't. But he is not a Hezbollah supporter. He has a Jewish daughter, a Jewish son-in-law. He has Jewish grandkids. He is not a Hamas supporter. Of all the things he is not a Hamas supporter. What he said was he's retelling the story of Israeli officials publicly saying, do not invade at this point. Better not invade. And saying, Hezbollah's smart. They hear that and say, oh, we should invade there. Right? It's not support to recognize that your enemy has a tactical awareness.
Yeah.
Like, that's not bad.
He's evaluating. In his mind, everything has an attribute, right? And they are smart because he's like, they will figure out what to do to come at you. He like comes from their perspective on it because he's that ultimate salesman, right? He knows what the enemy's up to. So he's like, if they're going to do something, they're going to be very smart about it. And it's just a word twist, right? He's only saying that you've got to be careful because they're going to know what to do to you. I mean, how many times do you think he did it with Putin, right? He called him a pretty bright guy, right? He knows because he jumps in from his perspective. It's just how he evaluates people. It's how he evaluates situations and attributes to a particular situation. It's actually pretty smart because it shows you that he doesn't take anything for granted, and he doesn't undervalue them in
Yeah.
something they might be able to do, right? He knows everybody can beat you any time of the day for any reason, but he's smart enough to be able to do that, right? And to try to change what he does to match that or defeat you in some way. You know what I mean? Or make the set without a bet. Lack of a better
Donald
word.
Trump, Donald Trump's one of his greatest strengths, and also one of his greatest weaknesses, is that he holds grudges, and he has not had the kindest of words for Benjamin Netanyahu, but he still holds a grudge against Netanyahu because on election night in 2020, while ballots were still being counted, before anything had been certified, Netanyahu went to Twitter and congratulated Joe Biden. Like we were awake, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump was still winning. And there were legitimate questions about troughs of ballots that were counted in the middle of the night. Benjamin Netanyahu saw the projections and congratulated Biden before the votes had been counted and before he had been certified the winner. And so Trump has told other people in conservative media that he will never forgive Netanyahu for doing that. After everything Trump did for Israel, moving the embassy back to Jerusalem, the Abraham Accords, bringing Israel and the Arab states together to try and normalize relations. After everything Trump did for Israel, he felt it was a stab in the back for Netanyahu to congratulate Biden before he had even been certified the winner, before all the votes had been counted. It took days to count those votes.
Yeah.
Remember, like Pennsylvania didn't go for days. Michigan didn't go for days.
Disaster, yeah.
So that's kind of what's behind Trump. But we're seeing all of these, like DeSantis put that out, actually branding Trump as a Hezbollah supporter. It's insanity. And then you had Biden, not Biden, because he couldn't tweet himself out of a paper bag. His handlers from his account then tweeted like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Ron DeSantis is right. And then you have Mike Pence blaming Donald Trump for the Hamas terror attack. That's insanity. Mike Pence saying, like, of course you have Hamas doing this. This is what happens when you have people like Donald Trump running for president, arguing that America remove itself from the world stage. It's disgusting.
Yeah. How many times does that word keep coming up today? Yeah, everything's gross and disgusting.
But like, I have a MAGA hat signed by Mike Pence. I want to burn it. I thought one day, okay, this will be valuable one day. No one's gonna buy a "Make America Great Again" hat with Mike Pence's signature on it. It's worthless.
I don't know. Maybe we should do a contest where if we raise enough dollars for somebody, we'll burn it.
Yeah.
Just saying, we'll think about that one.
Yeah, burn for charity.
He does. He holds on to those grudges, man. If he feels like he's slighted from you, he'll always remind you. Now, like the circumstances in Israel, obviously he would put that aside. But yeah, he holds a grudge. Loyalty is everything with Trump. Loyalty is everything, and I get it. You always want people loyal.
Some of it's fair, some of it's unfair, right? Yeah. When you put a judge in a judgeship, you vet them to know what they think, but they don't owe you anything. Like, that's a terrible system to live in. Where, I mean, we know what happens, right? When you see a case is before an Obama judge, you know what the result's going to be. But that's not a commitment that they have to Obama. That's the philosophy that they hold themselves. That he just picked leftists, right? It's not that he picked people who are have sworn an oath of allegiance to Barack Hussein Obama himself. No. So, like, I get it. The loyalty aspect of it, like, he goes against McEnany all the time. Yeah. And like she was his press secretary. Mm-hmm. But she's not on his payroll. Right? So, like, when you hire a political advisor and you don't keep paying them, they might go work for someone else, right? It's what are they supposed to do? If you don't want to keep them on the payroll, they never have a job in conservative politics again. Like, You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
loyalty, it stretches too far sometimes.
Yeah,
But listen,
yeah. You're right. I would agree with that
if
one.
you've been screwed over as much as Trump has in the last 2 years,
Yeah,
you'd see what people who were loyal to him have come out and done and said about him.
yeah,
I'd be pissed too.
yeah. I'd go scorched earth, right? At least politically in the realm on that. Sorry, man. I was looking over and I was realizing the amount of people who had just taken to the streets in London for a lot of
Oh, do you have
the
that?
demonstrations.
Why don't you throw it up on the screen?
Yeah, let me see if I can bring this up here. Just to make sure that there's no tabs up here that
While
you
you're
guys
doing
shouldn't
that,
see.
I'll remind everyone, if you want to help support the show, link is in the description. Go to prepsos.com, use promo code MAX for all of your prepper kind of emergency preparedness supplies. Use promo code MAX to get 5% off, and we will get a portion of those proceeds to help us grow out this show. So again, that's prepsos.com, promo code MAX, get 5% and help support the show.
So here is the streets of London. I mean, this is just, I don't know where the street is at, but it's filled with people up and down calling for some pretty awful things. Like some
Damn.
of the things being said in these crowds are so anti-Semitic. I mean, these are people that are saying that they don't want this, and if they're showing up in those numbers, I mean, that's terrible. You know, it's terrifying, right? Imagine being Jewish and living in one of those apartments, looking down, wondering if they're going to storm the building and drag you out into the street.
Yeah.
You just don't know. They've been called to do something, right? And there may be fanatics amongst them that start violence in other places. And here in America, we've at least got an opportunity to protect ourselves because of the Second Amendment. You know, imagine living in London where you can't even have a knife, and people are going to find homemade machetes to come after you with, because that's what happens in Great Britain. If they don't get guns, gang, they get blades and they get hammers and they get screwdrivers, right? And then you want to talk about a level of brutality.
You saw what Henry Kissinger said, right?
Oh, why? Oh, it blew my mind.
Henry Kissinger came out. Let me see if I can present my screen.
That was a while, man. Like, duh.
He came out and said, Germany let in too many foreigners. And to hear that admission from Henry Kissinger, who lots of opinions about him, right?
Yeah.
Lots of opinions about him. But to admit what they have refused to admit for years, that when you bring so many people into the country who do not share the same values, do not share same culture. I'm all for a multicultural experience, right? But when you bring in so many people that you feel like you're in a different country, and then to hear that this day of jihad come out and realize, oh my goodness, we are surrounded by people who could potentially be heeding that call. I can understand why he and others would be terrified. Over that.
One of the things I've said ever since we've done this show is, whose country is it? If you're letting a bunch of people coming over your border and they take over, whose country is it? It's only yours if you can hold on to it. Our republic is very fragile, and it's more fragile than ever. I mean, we're just streets filling up with people that want to do bad things away from disrupting the wonderful life we've built here. I like being able to go to work every day without wearing bulletproof vest or fighting in the streets. I like my running water. I like my electricity. I like generally being around people and smiling and enjoying shopping at stores and restaurants. But if all of that comes, it turns into a third world country. It turns into a violent place that you will live. There will be things happening in American streets that you would never thought were possible. And it's all been brought over the border.
Yeah. No, it's I was seeing if I can find it, but the police in the UK put out an alert that said, we know they are gathering and we are responding, understanding that this could become a security situation.
Yeah.
If the government is admitting that they've brought people into the country who could potentially create a security situation because they're out in the streets in support of a terrorist organization, that is as clear evidence that you could possibly have that they have no business being in that country. Sorry. Like, How committed are they to this multicultural experience that they won't just admit what's plain as day right in front of them?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But we are starting to see some British PM, some British officials in their government starting to admit that this experiment with multiculturalism is a failure, and it's eroding the British identity.
And it's all built on liberal ideals. You have to do this. You have to let people in. If you don't do it, you're a bigot. You have to accept them in the places you live. If you don't do it, you're racist. You have to let them get into the universities and have their groups and say the things they want to, right? And then this is the result of it. I mean, this is what it really shows is those who are in charge of allowing those people to come on the board or had no business being in the position they were in.
Yeah.
Because if they were actually doing their jobs, the government in the UK would not have to put a tweet out that says this might be a problem. Really, a little too late, right? The enemy is on your doorstep.
It's government, but it's also media. Yeah. Did you have a chance to see what Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, did you have a chance to see his comments on MSNBC?
No.
He went up against the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Oh,
and listen, I don't support the ADL. The ADL has been weaponized against conservatives. Yeah. The ADL has been used to brand conservatives as white supremacists and Nazis simply because of conservative political beliefs. Right? They are quite literally inventing white supremacists that do not otherwise exist.
Yeah.
It has been remarkable, though, to see the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, an organization created to stop Jew hatred, figure out how to exist during a period of very real Jew hatred that the media is ignoring and covering up. And that's what he talks about in this clip. Let me go ahead and put it up on my screen. I just pushed the wrong button. Here it is. Here's the clip.
Wow.
Just lost myself.
It's magic. I don't know. Can I get busted for that, singing that? Probably throw us off the air. All right.
It's glitchy.
I blame the buffering. It's got the there we go. It was a good setup, though. Really liked it. I'd never look good bald.
Oh, you can't hear it at all? Josh, say something. If you can't hear it, say something.
I was trying to type really fast.
Dead air. I thought that was playing. Okay, let me download it.
I just thought I couldn't hear it.
Oh, say something. See something, say something.
No, I just thought I couldn't hear the screen. Because you could hear it. Hear something, say something. Where did the sound go? Okay, so all right, man. We don't know what happened.
Here we go. I will add it. I'm sorry.
Bringing this morning, Jonathan.
You hear this one?
Tell us, if you will, just what these last few days have been like for you, and why it's so important that you are appearing here today with the Reverend Sharpton.
Well, so I will be honest and maybe a little more vulnerable than I normally would be. These have been some of the hardest days of my adult life. I don't ever remember a moment like this. I have family in Israel right now under siege and being deployed to the front lines. I have staff who can't locate their family. I have friends who are gone. And I think Ambassador Danone put it well in a context that Americans can understand. 9/11, the evil that was perpetrated here. But the scale, Jonathan, the right comparison is Nagasaki. This was like an atomic bomb. And as 40,000 people were killed in Japan when they dropped that bomb in Nagasaki, so too were the hundreds upon hundreds of people who were killed in Israel. And so while I am sad and trying to cope, I'll be honest, I am angry. I am angry with the world that allowed the dehumanization of Israelis and sanitized the terrorism of Hamas. I must say, I love this show and I love this network, but I've got to ask, who is writing the scripts? Hamas? The people who did this, they are not fighters, Jonathan. Wow. They are not militants, and I'm looking right at the camera. They are terrorists. It is a barbarian who rapes and brutalizes women, who kills children in front of their parents, and then brings them over to Gaza, who literally, we've heard all these reports, and we know these aren't just reports. These were filmed gleefully by the barbarians who committed these grotesque crimes. They filmed, for example, an elderly woman in her home in one of these towns. They burned her alive in her house because she was too infirm to take out. And, parading women, bleeding from the crotch because they were raped throughout Gaza while people hoot and holler and cheer. So look, when we say, oh, this was an escalation, it was bound to happen, I am sorry. This was a massacre that was pre-planned. This was not destined to happen. It is not normal to shoot teenagers in the back, hundreds of them. So I just think, guys, get this story right. And all these pictures of missiles or the rubble in Gaza, please talk to the Israeli mothers and fathers who lost their children. Talk to the grandchildren whose grandparents were seized as hostages. And please stop calling this a retaliation. This is a defensive measure against an organization that is committed to one thing: killing Jews, not a peaceful resolution of a conflict, but murdering Jews. And if you're wondering if I'm exaggerating, please, I beg of you, everyone watching and everyone at this network, just watch the footage.
I wanted to play that in its entirety because ADL, not an ally of conservatives whatsoever. But you can see the rage there, that he is surrounded by people, both on camera and off camera, who are doing everything they can to try and massage the language a bit. And we see it. They call, gunmen ran into the village. No, they're terrorists. Like militants. Well, no, they're not militants. They're terrorists. What do you think of that, Josh?
I think his statement, he said, whoever is writing these narratives, stop, right? Which just tells you that even he works in the system. He's seen it. He knows that there's a media influence happening on this. And for what outcome, I don't know. It's propaganda, right? And that's what's going on. And that maybe that liberal news organization doesn't want to have to admit that the stuff they've supported for so long led to stuff like this, right? The liberal ideology of letting people into your country and stuff like that. It just proves that maybe most of the media we watch isn't news, but a propaganda cycle.
Oh, it is. Imagine if after 9/11, instead of covering Ground Zero, all of the news cameras were covering the caves in the villages in Afghanistan that were suffering bombings, right? And all the news was, oh, look at what's happening to these villagers. Legitimate stories, right? And without doubt, victims of, though I think the United States did a better job of avoiding collateral damage than Israel might be in this situation. But when you have Hamas headquartering in a hospital and schools, it's hard to take out terrorists and always minimize that. I've never seen something like this, and you expect it from Al Jazeera, paid for by the government of Qatar. You expect that. You expect that narrative. You don't expect that from American news channels.
Who was that? MSNBC? What were they on? It was MSNBC. Yeah, man, that is just a liberal news outlet. And when how long can that facade of impropriety stay there, right? They're very one-sided, and you can see it now in a coverage that just there was an attack out there, well, bloody genocide,
Yeah.
and to try to spin it is just as gross as the act, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It was just a genocide.
I still can't believe how the media, the left, spent the last 5 years calling conservatives Nazis, conservatives white supremacists. That the term has just been so loose. It was so easy to come off their tongue, right?
Yeah.
They're calling everyone and their mother white supremacists and Nazis. But now when you actually have a terrorist organization that is dedicated to the eradication of the Jewish people, wherever they can be found, you have protesters showing up to these Palestinian rallies, holding up their phones with the Nazi swastika on it, chanting "Death to the Jews, death to the Jews." To see those same political pundits who had just a couple weeks earlier thrown around Nazi like it was like they were getting paid every time they used the term, to see them clam up like a Jerry Nadler walking off stage, tighten up, and just stop. Just stop. I think that's the anger from the ADL. And listen, he's no ally because he's part of the problem of calling everyone a Nazi. And the problem is when you water down that term the way they've done for years, when everyone's a Nazi, it's the boy who cried wolf scenario.
Yeah.
When you've desensitized everyone to the term and you made them not believe you when you say it, it's harder to point out when you actually do find bona fide Nazis, white supremacists. Well, not white supremacists, but anti-Jew violence.
Anti-Jews, yeah. Wow.
That's my take, at least.
Yeah. That was apt.
We had a clip. I decided not to show it, of a man getting stabbed outside of a Jewish embassy. I don't think we should show that. I feel like that's. I was going to show it. It's in the picture is in the little thumbnail for the video. I don't want to show it. It's available on the internet. You can see it. But there are attacks happening. There was an attack in France, a second foiled attack in France. There was a mob trying to go in Jordan to the Israeli border. They were stopped with tear gas. It's getting froggy out there. Josh, before we wrap up, as a self-defense teacher, trained in the arts of Krav Maga and firearm handling, what would your advice be to people over the next for every day, but especially over the next couple days? What would your advice be for people who already are comfortable carrying a firearm, or not? What would your advice be for them?
Well, first thing is I'd make sure that your eyes are up so don't get stuck in your phone. Now is not the time to be walking around outside with your face in your phone. Second, if you're in a place where there's lots of people, be mindful of those around you. So watch out for that and look for the movements. Look for a 45-degree angle. If somebody's got their arm behind them and your arm comes out at a 45-degree angle, that just means that they've reached for something. I don't know what that is, right? That's why you have to make choices. That's why in self-defense we make choices, and hopefully it's nothing bad. You know what I mean? Maybe they're just scratching, maybe they're itching, but you've got to use your mind, your eyes, and your brain, and know that you've got to pay attention. So don't just pay attention. That's number one. Two, make sure you know how to carry your firearm and how to hold on to it and how to hide it until you really need it.
Yeah.
Right. Remember, cover is valuable, but movement is life.
Friend of the show, Mandy, just said in the comment section on YouTube, great show. She's bringing her girls to a concert. Venue holds 17,000 people. No carry allowed there. I would recommend that you know where the exits are at all times.
Yeah.
That's just good advice anytime you're going into a big venue like that. Because chances are, if something happens in a venue like that, it's not going to be the actual violence that hurts or kills people. It'll be the stampede of everyone trying to get through the same single door. So pay attention to your entrances and exits. Pay attention to where security guards are and are not. and just be alert. Chances are nothing will happen. Right?
Body language is everything.
Yeah. Chances are nothing will happen, but no one ever died from being too prepared.
Or vigilant.
No one, or too vigilant.
Yeah. Yeah, just be careful out there, gang. Pay attention.
You're saying they shouldn't counter-protest the Palestinian marches? It's not recommended?
I will not. I'm not. I can't tell you what you do. I can't tell you what to do, but I can say that, you can quickly go from being the good guy to the bad guy in one moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah. I would also recommend it if you don't carry or you're not comfortable carrying, now is as good a time as ever to go to the shooting range and learn how to safely and effectively operate a handgun. If you live in a state that is permitless carry, constitutional carry, as long as you legally own the gun, you can legally carry the gun. Every state in the country now must allow you to have a concealed carry permit. Some states make it harder to apply, but there's no such thing as a may issue state anymore, thanks to the Supreme Court. Now is as good of a time as ever to go and start that process. The best time would have been a couple months ago. Second best time is right now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And this isn't the last time we'll be talking about something like this. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Anything else, Josh, before we wrap up?
No, just pay attention. Make sure everybody stays safe and have a plan. Have a plan.
Plan. Well, that's it for this edition of the Right Guys podcast. If you like the podcast, make sure you subscribe. All those links are in the description. I say it every time, but I'm going to say it again. We go live on YouTube and Rumble. Always on Rumble. YouTube when we can, based on the topic. But so subscribe to those. And then we also have the audio edition of the podcast. That's great. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Audible, and Podbean. I'm starting to remember the order. I got them right. Those links are in the description. Super easy. If you have a commute or you drive, you can just have that auto download, listen to us in the car. We try and make sure that this is a good audio podcast. Had a little bit of dead air, which I'll edit out in post for the audio version, but we try to make this a podcast where you can relate to it just if you're listening to audio. So do check that out. And it helps us prove the numbers because those are the numbers that advertisers care about. Check all those links in the description for different ways you can support the show. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
And I'm Josh Hammerling.
And remember that the fight to take back the country is not over yet. The only way we win is if we all win together. Masalama.